Hey everybody, this is Bryant from Victory. So excited to present you guys with this project that I've been thinking about for over a year now. This is something that has been a culmination of different Zoom meetings, and so you're going to see different parts of the actual, I guess, the different meetings that I've had with several different people, of my friends, my family, and so I'm excited to present to you guys what I call the victory lane. This is going to be something that I pray is going to be helpful. We're going to be talking about different topics throughout all the different episodes that happens. And so the first episode that you're going to see is actually a part one of two. And so this is what I call hashtag FreshMen. So everybody enjoy. So, thank you, my brothers, for being a part of this. This I don't know, for some reason, the thing about guys has always been on my mind and on my heart for a minute. I think maybe it's because of the fact that for me, I've had a challenging upbringing with just men in my life. Not to say that my dad wasn't around, because he was, but he wasn't in the house due to my parents splitting up and stuff like that. So me growing up personally, I had a lot of different male figures in my life, but they weren't in the household and stuff like that. So when it comes to young men, and I see a lot of men, doing different things that was similar to me, one of the things that I want to do is try to help them from not going down some of the same crazy paths that I went down, or if you guys have any experiences going down any of those things, stuff like that. Just trying to help every man from every age range, from young to old, to just continuing to be better. So um, this little discussion, I'm going to try and record it so that we can post it, and so we can share with other people just some things that's going on, and we'll go from there. All right.
All right.
So we have a couple topics. I'll just spit out like a question, and then we'll just talk and go from there. Nothing too formal, but we'll just chop it up, and we'll go to the next one once we're done. So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys was, what, in your eyes, in your mind, what does it mean to be a man and a man of God? Like, what does it mean to be a man, and what does it mean to be a man of God? Anybody can go.
Sorry, I'm chewing.
Sorry.
I don't know. Just a man is just, I don't know. You would usually say strong. Um, uh, I can't even say that. Bold, but then people are different. People have different personalities. But you think of man, you think of strong, bold, um, authoritative, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, as far as a man of God, we should be all of that, and then even more, and even more accentuated, especially how the enemy is attacking, or just in general. Like, we should be just more aggressive, and if we're not aggressive by nature, naturally, spiritually, I think we should be. And I struggle with that a lot, even though it might not seem that way, but but I do.
Yeah.
What specifically do you struggle with, Matt?
It's just more like, just I don't know, stuff's going on. I'll pray, but okay, Lord, please help me. And I'm not like all that aggression and stuff you see when I'm miming. I don't do that necessarily in my prayer life, or when stuff is going on outside of that. I like all the J's in the background, by the way. All the George background.
I am impressed. I wanted him to talk just so I could see him.
Yeah.
Wow. Goals.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm kind of going start with the man of God part and then answer the man part.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with Matt saying he struggles. So I'm currently struggling with becoming more of a man of God, where I'm releasing control of certain things in my life, and reconfiguring my definition of being a man. So, kind of contrast to Matt, I am hyper aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I am just without getting too deep into my background. Just take uh, two characteristics. My mom named me Shantae, and in the hood.
Yeah.
And my mom she was a tomboy, so she fought, she played basketball, she worked on cars. So I couldn't have a mother that was tougher than me, and let everybody know because my name is Shantae, there's nothing sweet over here. So I think it's bad being named Shantae, then
Yeah.
there's nobody being beat up by a dude named Shantae. So, uh, so the world's definition of a man as it relates to all the aggressive things, I kind of bought into that and lived my life that way. So, becoming a man of God, letting the Lord fight my battles. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. Um, see the salvation of the Lord. Those verses, I'm finally releasing some of that aggression and trying to find the balance of being the protector of my family, whether it's physically in the world and protecting them, whether it's socially in the workplace, or for my son in the school environment. Just trying to find that balance of, okay, Lord, do you want me to use this skill set, or you have a different plan? And then learning to feel comfortable with not aggressing, not fighting. That's become my new balancing act of being the man of God, and as it relates to my family, my immediate family. Well, not just my immediate family. I'm sort of the patriarch of my extended family as well. So didn't realize how many female cousins I had until I got older. You got to start looking out and protecting them, from predators. So it's a work in progress, to say the least.
True. Anybody else got any thoughts?
For me, my father was in the picture, as a kid. Now, my father was a quiet guy, and so he wasn't a real in-your-face kind of guy. And so that was my example, and I guess a lot of that rubbed off on me and just my natural personality as well. So I never felt like I had to be like super aggressive or macho or anything like that. And I think that being a man, part of being a man is being yourself, your personality within that framework of being a man. You still have to be yourself, the person that God made you, and figure out how to do that. And when you're a man of God, I think that follows through as well. You're trying to be the covering for your family, the protector for your family, and all that. But you're still going to be yourself. Your own personality still injects into that, and that's kind of the balancing act as I see it.
Yeah, to add my 2 cents to it all, I think as it puts together everything everyone just said, I think it's knowing the right time and doing things at the right time to be a man of God. So everyone has a man tendency to be an aggressor, to be the head of the household, but then at the same time, you need to know the right timing that sometimes the mother of the household should be the one that should be stepping up, doing this, doing that. As a man of the household, a man of God, you need to know when you shouldn't be aggressive and when you should kind of lay back, be patient, listen first, and not be ready to attack at all times. So I would definitely say it's about timing and using the right frame of mind for everything.
Now, one of the things that I thought about, especially when I thought about the five of us is the idea between, for young people, the idea between marriage and the ideas of dating. So like for me, when I was dating, my old dumb habits that I did when I was a single guy, and when I didn't know better, I didn't have the right people in place, it translated into how I dated girls. And then it was big balance for when it was time for me to really step my game up and talk with Jasmine, because of the fact that I made so many mistakes before that I didn't want to make that mistake again when it came to Jasmine, because of the fact that I wanted to be better. So uh, the first question I'll ask, when we can just start with dating, as a young man, how should, I guess, a young man present himself to another person, and things that they need to be mindful of when they are trying to date somebody, if that makes sense? Like, what things should they be mindful of doing? What things should they stop doing? What things should they be aware of as a young man? What things should they, like, just not do? Past experiences that messed you up to set you up for a great marriage, stuff like that.
So I had in my dating experience, I had, that one, I won't call it a heartbreak, but that one situation where I got played.
Mm-hmm.
And, you get played and you make up in your mind as a man that will never, ever, 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 never happen again. So because of that, I became a manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
And in the manipulation there came financial benefit. And I'll leave it at that. So during about a 4 or 5 year period of being this manipulator, once the Lord called me back to relationship with him, and I got back with Rita, and we were preparing to get engaged and get married. One of the things I said to myself was I did not want to handle my wife. That's kind of what I called, my manipulation is, handling of these individuals. Because once you begin to handle someone, you have to handle them to get your results indefinitely. And so for me, if I was talking to, a younger version of me, or any young man that is leading a lifestyle of manipulation, you have to make the conscious decision to not handle that person, meaning to not devise plans and schemes for how you're going to get what you need or what you want from your spouse, and make the decision to allow the relationship to mature naturally, so that there can be an authentic relationship and authentic responses from you and the potential spouse. So I would give that advice to a young man to go in and leave the manipulation behind.
I would say when it comes to dating somebody, that you want to put all of your effort into that person. And if you don't feel like you should be putting all the effort into that person, you shouldn't be dating them. Especially as you get to a certain age. Like whenever I met Marcia, it was one of those things where I'm dating you to see if I do want to marry you and be with you the rest of my life. I'm not just dating you just for something for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still only 21, 22 years old. So my dad taught me if you date somebody, you want to date them with the intent and to see if you want to marry them. And he had that, if you're dating somebody within 2 years and you don't feel like you should be marrying them, move on. I mean, I had some longer relationships, but I was always younger as well, so I wasn't going to be just dating them for 2 years and getting married like 19 or something. But, but I definitely feel as if everyone I did date, if it was a serious dating relationship. One of my girlfriends was 3.5 years, and the other one was 2.5 years before I met Marcia. So it was one of those prolonged things. I wasn't just doing it to do it. I was doing it to be with them, put my effort into them, and to see if it would go to something further. And when it came to the point where I didn't think it was, I didn't just go with somebody else while I was with them. We just went ahead and parted ways. And then it was one of those wise decisions before you go to the next person.
Word. Well, what about for marriage? So for instance, being locked up in our homes, at least for me, has made my relationship with the Jasmine stronger. But then it's also been like an eye opener because there's been things that I've been praying for personally that I wanted to work on within my marriage with Jasmine that now all of a sudden it's like there's no escape room. It's confronting the things that I've been praying about to be better in, and it's like there's no other place to do it. It's almost, it's not like we're caged into one spot where we have to talk, but it's to a point where it's me and her, like, our 3-year-old Natalie, like we'll talk to her for a little bit, but she's on her own world. And so like trying to better our communication, for me not to be just a person, because I'm a person where I don't really like confrontation, so I will kind of diffuse the conversation and walk away so I can take a deep breath. But in communicating with my wife, that was one of the things that she wanted to work on. It's like, okay, I need to figure out how to be better. So in marriage with you guys, how do you guys continue to work to sustain a healthy marriage with one another?
I think you just saying, how do you continue to work is where it comes from. It just comes from putting work into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way you can and will do it. It's not just going to happen overnight. We're still growing and learning each other. And I think with how much we've grown, because we've been married 10 years now, just this year, and how much we've grown over those 10 years, if we were to go into this isolation, let's just say 5 years ago, it probably would have been a whole lot more head bashing and a whole lot more confrontations. Because right now, I've been enjoying this isolation. It's been good with me. But again, that's time put in. And like I said, if it was 5 years ago, it could be a totally different situation. But it definitely takes work. And I mean, if something, back in the day, I used to hate confrontation so much that if I knew I was in trouble, I'd avoid Marcia at all costs. And now and then there'll be one of those, we don't talk for a long times. I know Shantae has a record that I've ever heard of for not talking to somebody. But it's not like that anymore. If something's going on, we try not to dwell. We try to simmer. We try not to hold on. We talk about it right then and there. But again, that's just something that took work. So it just 100% is just work. You got to want it. If you don't want it, you're not going to work on it. It's not going to happen. So you got to just want it, work on it, and have it happen.
I think this kind of follows up on the dating part, though. Like you had said about needing to put in work to your relationship, leading towards marriage, and it's those kind of people. They need to know that, well, once you hook that person, it's not going to stop. You've just begun your journey. And so when you go into marriage, of course, it's more of the same. And, for me, now that we're in this quarantine thing, for me personally, it really hasn't changed because we're at a different stage of life. We're both retired and we see each other every day, all day anyway. And so for, those of you who were both had jobs and you were out, it's a whole different story. And it's probably a bit of a shock, but it's also a good cautionary tale, I think, too, because when you get to a later stage in life, if you focused all your energy on jobs or kids or whatever and not in a relationship, once it's just the two of you looking at each other, things may not go well.
Anyone else?
Like everyone said, work, it's constant. Man, the quarantines, I guess, I wouldn't say not so bad for me because it's not like we don't get along, but I'm always out the house working, both jobs still. So, but I get off a little earlier at night, so she's here waiting for me. We watch our little show. She falls asleep. You know, we still do our little dates. We'll go and get takeout and sit in the car and eat it.
Awesome.
And you know, take a picture of you sitting in the car eating. It's just, yeah. I mean, and we've been it's 13 years this year. So it's been quite a long time. A lot of ups and downs, but it's a lot of work, a lot of humbling, and not trying to be. Well, I won't say. I'm still working on the humbling part as it stands, but a lot of you know, what is it, dying to yourself?
Yeah.
That has to happen a lot. I'm still, you know, not good at killing myself all the time, but you know, it's, you know, like I said, it's a daily process. The flesh is going to bump up against each other. Pride is going to bump up against. Oh no, you can't. Why are you doing that to me? I'm the man of the house. No, it's not even like that no more. 13 years in, I need everything just be peaceful.
Yeah.
Peaceful as possible. Not to compromise values or anything like that, but it's just everything just peaceful.
Yeah.
For me, it's I understand. I think I may have shared this in the marriage fellowship. Build the marriage before you live in the marriage, and learning where you are in the process so that you can enjoy that part of the process. Now 21 years, you know, things should look different 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because we were in a different phase of the marriage. So within that, also learning something similar to what Roger Lee was saying, learning that well, I'll start with something Matt said. If you ever have to say you're the man of the house, then you're not being the man of the house. You know what I mean? You just should be like, lions don't go around saying I'm the king of the jungle. They just are. You know.
Yep. Good
so,
point.
So something's not right if you remember when we became 18 and we got to run around saying I'm a man. Yeah, well, if you don't tell people you're a man, then you haven't matured into being a man yet. You know what I mean? So just learning where you are in the process. And another thing that I kind of learned in this process is primary, secondary, and tertiary. You know, there's 3 of us in our family, and understanding in the moment when decisions have to be made, who's the primary person, you know, who's the star of the situation. And then once you figure out who the star is, then you can figure out where your role is. You're then a supporting cast member in this moment. And if I know, for me, being the only child and being that hyper masculine dude, I was always the center of attention. My wife, being the baby of her family, she was always the center of attention. So you have 2 people coming into a situation, and then you add a baby to the situation, and it's difficult fighting for that center of attention role. But once you begin to realize this decision has to be made with this person in mind, this decision has to be made with this person in mind, and then being able to communicate that, you know, to the other person. Like, I'm not doing anything to you. It's just that you're not central to this decision. And though you may feel some kind of way because we're making a decision for, let's say, for the child, as a dad, our son has a chronic condition, and I remember taking him to the doctor and had to make a decision on the spot, and my wife wasn't there. And I knew that she would feel some kind of way because she wasn't there to make the decision. But if I didn't make it for him at that moment, it was going to be 3 to 4 months before the decision could be made again, and he would have to live with that for 3 to 4 months. And it wouldn't be fair to him for the decision not to be made in his favor in that moment, knowing that she was going to feel some kind of way because she wasn't consulted, you know. So at that time, I had this little process thing I was able to share with her, like, this wasn't about you. I understand you feel a particular way, but put yourself in his shoes, and him having to wait to get a better therapy for his condition something that he wants that frees him up as a teenager, then to bring it home, talk to you about it, you weigh in on it. I already pretty much know what you wouldn't have wanted it for him, but he wants it, and he's central, he's primary in this situation. So just learning those things, and to be able to be on the same page with where we are in the marriage, now being empty nesters, is different. And then when the boy comes home, like I've moved on to, he's a semi guest, but to her, he's still the baby. You know what I mean? So I often get pushed to the back burner when he's home, and it's like, oh, you can't change the dynamics of what's going on in his household.
Exactly.
Because he's not a kid anymore. He's still our child, but he's not a kid anymore. So we're in that transition right now. So just understanding where we are and being able to communicate about it, and the conflicts don't look like they did in year 5, in year 21, but still figuring it out, and being able to have the groundwork of 20 years, 21 years to stand on, that when we have to have those confrontations, we know they're like speed bumps now. Before they were mountains.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Next question for you guys. So one of the things for me is that though, like I talked about earlier, though my father was there, I had other men in my life that kind of provided different insights to me. There's no secret, when I came up here, I kind of was like a loose cannon in a sense. I thought, as a young person, like we all did, we thought we knew it all. Like I said, I'm telling people, I'm a man, or I'm acting the way that I want to act because, mama's not around. I'm in college, all this stuff like that. And it took PJ kind of cracking the whip on me several times to tell me, like, this is not how a man is supposed to operate. This is not how, a man of God should be operating, things like that. It took many of times. I've been sat down in ministry from Victory, I think 3 times during my stay. I've been sat down, put back on, sat back down, put back on, sat back down. And so I have not been sat back down since the last time I was put down. So I guess I'm doing something right. But it took a guy to be a great mentor, as well as to be a great model for me, to understand what it means for me to be, the person I am today. And so I wanted to ask you guys the question of the differences between mentoring and modeling. So I heard, I kind of feel like there's a difference between the two. I wanted to know whether or not you thought there was a difference, or you thought there's similarities, stuff like that. Like, what's your take on mentoring and modeling? And we'll go from there.
Since I'm a personal trainer, the best way I relate it is to mentor somebody is like me telling them what they should be doing for exercises, me telling them how they should eat, me showing them all these exercises, and me modeling is me doing the same things I'm telling them to do. If I was an overweight, lazy, ate whatever I wanted trainer, then I'm not modeling what I'm mentoring.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to some extent, do the things that you want them to do at the same time you do it. I was in one of my classes that I was teaching, I was telling them, these are all students who are looking to become teachers. I was telling them about how you have to try to get the parents to show up, be present. You got to try to get them to do parent-teacher conferences, because you had to have that two-way communication. You want to make sure that they're involved, all this other stuff. In the same breath, I said, I don't go to any of my kids' parent-teacher conferences and all this other stuff. So I made a conscious effort to make sure that I started going to my kids' parent-teacher conferences, all these other things, because I need to be the model of how I'm mentoring these kids, trying to get them on the right path and make sure that there is a connection with parents and teachers. So just as in the Word of God, you have to model it. People, for some reason, say, I don't know if they know if I'm a Christian or not, But for some reason, some people say, I could tell you're really spiritual. I say, I don't really know what spiritual means to you, but thank you. Hopefully that means I'm a godly man. So I say, yes, I'm a Christian man. I'm glad that it exuberates from me. But that's one of those things where I try to at least be a good model. So if I do have to mentor somebody, they can say, oh, that's what I want to be like. That's what it is. That's what I want to be like. That's the model. You want your mentee to want to emulate, model after you.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think mentoring is more of an active role, and modeling is something that people just observe in you. And there's times that I think about that there's probably eyes watching me. Plus, when I'm in the congregation, I sit in the front of the church, so I figure people are watching me anyway. But um, but also, people watch you other places too, like, social media, since I'm, kind of big on the Facebook thing. And so I try to keep that in mind too, and not get too crazy. I can get a little passionate at times, um, but I try to think that I am a model for people. And like even like in church, I think one thing that young men is good to see is that um, the mature relationship, and how I relate to my wife. And so a lot of times when I am physically in the church building, I'm thinking about that. And the whole thing of like, oh, it's fine to show a little physical affection, if you want to go that way in church. It's not like I'm going to lay a sloppy one on her, but and like, put her over or nothing. But I think that's healthy, especially with couples that have been around for a while, to see that, yeah, there's still that kind of that spark, and that fire is still there, kind of smoldering underneath. And I think that's healthy for young people, both men and women, to see.
For me, I think mentoring is intentional, and I'm speaking from the mentee perspective. Mentoring is more intentional in relationship, where I was sort of like you, Brian, where my father, I knew where he was, but he wasn't around. He wasn't a part of my upbringing. So church, the men in church, they were my models, but none of them intentionally mentored me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have. I'm still at 46, still looking for, if the Lord wills, for a mentor. Um, there was a period of my life where I was, running up to dudes like, "Are you my mentor? Are you my mentor?" Like, almost like, "Are you my daddy? Are you my daddy?" And I've kind of tempered that over the past 10, 15 years, and just like, it is what it is. But as a mentor, I'm intent. So as a mentee, I watched these men in church, and it was like going to the grocery market every time I was in church, and I was able to pick and glean from these men, the things that I should add to my man cart, to my husband cart, to my father cart. But there was no one that intentionally, gave me direction. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. I would have loved to have that. I think I'd have missed a lot of missteps because I was impressionable. I wanted that. Now as a mentor, or in a position to be a mentor, I try to be intentional. But it's a lot of young people, young men today don't want that accountability. They want you to help them out of crisis, but when you give them the 1, 2, 3 steps to getting to their next level, and then holding them accountable, did you do 1, 2, 3? They don't want that. They want to. There's a disconnect in the desire to wanting to be held accountable. So even as a desiring to be a mentor, it's difficult to do that because of the generational disconnect with being relational. I don't want to get too deep into the whole social media generation, but I think that contributes to trying to be in the lives of those young men today that don't have father figures or those individuals. And there was a time where, you know, time passed, you didn't have a father figure, you were looking for it, you were inviting it.
Yeah.
Now it's almost like they're running from it now. You know, they want your help, and Christ is selective in what they want to take from you and hear from you. So to answer your question, I think mentorship is more intentional. We're modeling, you know, you are being who you are, you're on that stage, if you will, and allowing the public to glean from you what, you know, what they will, depending on their proximity to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remember just from you just talking, I remember me, like, we'll just talk for Victory in the church for this point. I remember coming here and I saw PJ for like the first time, and I talked with him for the first time, and I kind of treated him like every other guy from my home church. Like you said, like, you know, he was a person that could be that potential mentor and model, but I just looked at him like, okay. And then he would share certain things, and I'm like, well, who are you? Like, you know, like, you're the pastor of this church, I get that, but it's like, what's the difference between you and the other dudes that I've been with back in Philly? You know, like, what's the difference? And I think as a young man, I wish I would have learned earlier that and this is sometimes one of the things that I struggle with is, like, I need to put that prideful kind of mentality, like, I know it all. I really need to put that to the side if I'm trying to grow and be a better person for other people, or even for myself. You know, and it took a lot of, I think it took a lot of friction between PJ and I, even though it, you know, kind of really wasn't, but it just took a lot of time for me to be submissive and say, you know what, this guy has something that I need. And if I'm serious, like we talked about, like, if I'm serious about changing my ways, I have to listen and do 1, 2, 3 as what he's saying, compared to me just saying, okay, how can I skip past 2 so I can get to 3, kind of do 1, but do it enough that it's like, okay, I did 1, but I really didn't do 1. So I can get to the final result. Like, I really had to, and I think that came from the times of being taken down from ministry, that he was trying to show me, like, it's a bigger picture than what you think it is, or there's more behind what it is. And so that's, I mean, for me, every time that I come to church every semester, you know, I try my best, even though sometimes I probably fail at it, but I try my best to really connect with a lot of these younger guys, just because of the fact that I know that I have a slim window before they might disconnect or might look at me like I looked at another guy from my church. And so, I mean, I think it comes from building relationships. I think it just comes from being consistent, and not, you know, for me, it just it's being consistent, because I can be inconsistent in seeking after another guy. I don't know. So I think that's great. I mean, I'm kind of not able to wrap it up the way that I want to wrap it up, but, you know, when it comes to those two, I think it is important. Um, Anybody else? I'll move on. I got a little tab saying that the 40-minute mark, they're not giving it to me, and we can keep on going. So I said, look at the Lord moving. So we can go a little bit longer. Well, okay. So then the next one that I had on here was setbacks and victory. So when I think of setbacks and victories, I personally think about a lot of the challenges that I had, that I always say to myself, man, if I would have did it right when it was time for me to do it right, today I would be further along than where I am today. And some days I always kick myself in the foot, like, man, you know, if I would have listened to PJ back in 2010, I don't know, make up a number, 20 whatever, in 2020, I would be further along. Man, I feel like I missed out. Like, why did I do all this stuff? And then also, victories on the flip side is I'm glad I listened to the advice that I was given, because if I did not listen to the advice that I was given, I would not be in the spot that I am in today. And so that's a victory for me, having a wife. We're about to hit 6 years in August, having a daughter, having another daughter, we're waiting on that boy, but,
All right.
I,
All
won't,
right.
I won't say that.
Players curse. Players curse.
It'll be a
But,
good dad.
but I just being in a spot, being able to graduate and all this stuff like that, so how did you take your setbacks and use it to become victorious? I guess that's a question I want to ask.
I like to listen to Steve Furtick, if I say his name right. I watch him on YouTube a lot, and he just talked about how you can't even know success without having a failure. So, I mean, I liked it when he used that phrase. The fact that it's kind of like you can't be a sore loser. You need to be a good loser to be a good winner as well. Some people don't like it, just like some people may not like you hearing you need to know failure for success. But I think the failures, the setbacks, that's what helps shape us and mold us into who we are. Because everyone's different. Everyone has their own failures. One person's failure may not be another person's failure, and somebody else's success may not be another person's success. So I just think that that's just how we are shaped, molded, and help us be better people. And God said to never put more on us than we can bear. So sometimes God puts on as much as he can to the last straw, doesn't put on that last straw, and then you still overcome it all. And you're able to be a little bit better and know that you can overcome anything because you were down to that last bit of energy and ability.
Word.
Plus, I guess I like the fact that God guides you and takes you from where you are. So if you've made a wrong turn, then that's where you go from. And you can always think back, well, I shouldn't have taken this turn, but here you are. And just like the GPS, God takes you from where you are to where you need to be. You don't backtrack necessarily, but you and that's the way that God looks at you, and which I really like. He sees you where you are and takes into account the mistakes you made and said, okay, well, this is where we are. How are we going to get to the ultimate destination? And that's what I like about God. So it's kind of like a built-in mechanism to account for your failures, even though God's perfect will would have been for you not to have done whatever mistakes you've made.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I'm looking at it from a different perspective. After staying up until 4 a.m, having conversations with my son last night, so my failures, I'm learning to let go of the disappointment and looking forward to him taking advantage of my failures and being transparent with those failures and being able to see how those failures and sharing with him those failures, how they'll become successes for him a lot sooner than so the woulda, coulda, shouldas. Now I'm able to see him at 20, chomping at the bit of things that I was like fleeing from other people. And I got time. And he's like, all right, tell me how to do this. How do I make sure that, and sometimes it's at my expense. How do I make sure I don't do this wrong like you did, Dad?
Yeah.
And which is cool, because it's like, good. Now you're open to it. I'm not preaching it to you. I'm not trying to force feed it to you. He's receptive. So last night it started with a discussion about, how much is an entry level salary in these different fields of, or these different paths. And when he goes home to Philly, we get him an apartment in a particular this building near Port Mountain. and he's like, is that an appropriate place to save money? Or say, well, you have X amount of years you can stay with us, then you got to go. So, it would behoove you to, if we're in the same area, it behoove you to stay with us, because anything you would be spending, renting, you could be saving on top of what you could save while you're renting. Talked about, saving $20,000-$30,000 and putting that down on a multi family living or building, duplex, triplex, whatever. And just hearing him think outside the box, like I'm explaining mortgages to him. And, you get a 30-year, most people get a 30-year mortgage, or you can get a 15-year mortgage. Like, why would I take 15 years? That's something I could pay off in 7 years. Like, don't interrupt that. Like, I shouldn't jump in and mess that up. Like, if he can pay it off in 7 years, then do that. So it's almost like, accepting when the Lord told David, you won't build a temple, like, but Solomon did. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, some things I just gotta let go, and because of the consequences of my previous behavior, I may never see it. If I do see it, it's a blessing. I'm not gonna lament over it, but I can now look to the legacy that we're creating here as grand men, and prayerfully, his offspring even get it sooner than him. So looking at those failures as successes in the next generation is kind of exciting for me now.
Awesome. All right. Well, I got one more question, and I actually just thought about it as we're talking, and then we can.
Matt
wrap.
has to be the first one to answer.
Matt has to be the first one to answer.
Y'all saying everything. Y'all have nothing to add.
This one will work out because this is personalized for each and every one of us. So the question I thought of was, if you can pass on, I said one thing, but something to the men out here in this world, what would it be?
Wow.
If you can pass on one nugget.
Oh man. Just, seek the Lord, because that's just the key to everything. I mean, the key to how we should act, how we should be. We're going to see some different examples and stuff like that, but the Lord will tell you, he'll check you when you're not doing what you're supposed to do, when, whether you're single or married or whatnot. But I say, like it says, just seek God and everything will be added. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and everything else be added unto you. So if that's what I could tell the young people, is just, if you're just going for him first and not necessarily worrying about anything else, then he will add everything to you that you need and that you will that you want. So
now you gave the only answer that no one else can read off.
But yeah, so that's pretty much that's just it, and that's something I'm still yet working on.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Anybody else?
I guess to feed off of that, I would say, yes, always seek God first. But just like how God gives us a free will, always take advice from others, but try to understand, try to get to know, take it as constructive criticism, and try to choose the right path. Of course, we're seeking God through it all. But I know a lot of times, especially for younger folk, it's hard for them to take advice because they see that they got everything going. Even though we've lived it, we've done it, they still think that they know what they're doing. But take advice as much as you can. Even through what we're saying right here, this is advice for you to take.
Yeah.
Don't take it as bashing. Don't take it as coming down on you, or just take it as constructive criticism, words that were thought of because of what we've been through, experiences, and just trying to be a better man of God ourselves to try to help you do the same. Just take advice.
Awesome.
I was
I
go ahead,
Go
Mark.
ahead, Sean. Oh, I would just say, within the context of being a man of God and all of that, you realize that you are uniquely made.
Mhm.
God has made you a certain way with all your strengths and weaknesses and tendencies. Still be yourself. Don't try to be what you think your potential mate or your girlfriend is looking for. You know, sometimes you see these, like, it used to bug me years ago. All these guys would be saying, "Boy, these women, they're just looking for bad boys."
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck? And they'd be looking for these kind of guys, and like the guys that would treat you nice and treat you like a queen. They didn't want to give them the time of day, but in the long run, those nice guys are the ones you really want. So that's why I say, be yourself, however you are, in the context of what God can use. The way you are, God will use that some way.
I would say two things. Find some men that you give permission to hold you accountable. And the second thing is learning that society only accepts, regardless of our emotion, society only accepts one acceptable expression of that emotion from men, which is anger. So no matter what you're feeling, the only way it's acceptable is if you express it. I can be sad, but I got to present it mad.
Mhm.
I could be hurt, but I got
Mm.
to present it angry. If I present it the way that I'm actually feeling it, then I'm less than, I'm weak. So finding those individuals that you can practice um, expressing those emotions appropriately, because it'll save you from a world of mistakes and hurt, and trying to learn these lessons later on in life. And I always say, if you miss learning a lesson at the appropriate age, it looks goofy later on in life.
Mhm.
So trying to learn these lessons, with gray in your beard and, gray in your hair, you look goofy, so learn it early. Find that, find that group of people, the male group. Um, find your guy, or find that person that you can emote to and be able to share those things with, so that you have those pressure relief moments that is not taken out in displacement on the wrong people. Then you look goofy in those instances as well. So find those individuals that you can be expressive with, and learn how to be sensitive, because you need to be those things for your future family,
Yeah.
your bride,
Mhm.
your kids. You need to be those things. And if you so finding them early and learning how to do it early, and getting over the emotion of feeling like a punk or a chump because you're expressing yourself, getting over that earlier, it saves you from the world of embarrassment and hurt later on in life.
So I told
Brian, you got to answer the question. You've been asking some questions and not answering, bro.
I will answer this question. So the funny
Mhm.
thing about it was that I totally forgot that the reason why I've been thinking about this, us meeting and also like helping out other men, was because I fell into a scripture, from Titus chapter 2 verse 6 to 8, where it says, similarly encourage the young men to be self-controlled in everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed, um, because they have nothing bad to say about us. And when I found that scripture, it kind of hit me because of the fact that it placed a responsibility on me to be able to pass down information, whatever big or small, that I have gathered in my time of growing, and pass it on to the next person, because it's important that it happens. And so for me, I guess the thing that I would say to somebody, young or old or whoever, I think is be cool with the process, and be content with the process. I think for me, one of the things that I've been really good at doing is understanding that I'm in the situation during this time because I need to gather some stuff before I can go to the next. One thing that PJ always told me, and he says it all the time, is grow where you're planted. And I've used that so much in everything that I've done. Like, so many people are saying, why haven't you done this? Or how come you haven't moved back to Philly? Or how come, when you going to be the next blah, blah, blah. And I'm in the back of my mind, I'm saying the reason why I haven't moved, or the reason why I'm still in this spot, or the reason why, I'm not at the next level, is because I need to gather everything that I need to gather while I'm in this spot. And so what I would encourage another guy to do is be cool with the spot that you're in, and be cool with the process that you're in, because of the fact that there's a reason behind it. And so gather everything, struggle in some stuff, succeed in another, but at the end of it, once it's time for you to go to the next level, you're going to be well equipped. And I think, like Shantae said, the last thing that we want to be as an older man is to look stupid, or to look like we didn't gather what we needed to gather because of the fact that we didn't take the previous step seriously. And so for me, it's take this stuff serious, gather what you need to gather, and when it's time to move, you'll be ready to move because of the fact that you got everything that you needed to get from it. And so that's something that I would share to somebody else, is be content, be cool with the process that you're in, and anticipate the next step, but don't rush the step. You're going to fall on your feet. It's like going up the steps. We always think that we can, compared to us doing one step or like a double step, what, I feel good, I'll go 3 steps, and then you trip, and then you go smack down on them steps. Because we all think that we, Michael Jordan up in here, and we're just, a person from Indiana or the West Coast of Pennsylvania, so, it's just be cool with the fact that you got to take one step at a time, because, that's fine. Nobody said that you got to get to the next step at a certain time limit. And I think that's what a lot of young people are thinking, like, I got to graduate in 4 years. I got to, I gotta be married at this time, or maybe that's more girls, the married thing, but I gotta be successful at this time. I gotta make this much money. It's like, I tell my story all the time. It took me 11 years to graduate my bachelor's, so I'm like, the thing about it was that it took me 11 years, but in that process of 11 years, I gathered stuff, I grew from it, and I got what I was seeking for, which was that degree. And so it's one of those things. So I'll stop rambling, but that's kind of what I would pass on to somebody else. That is all right. Great. I want to do this again. This was fun. This was good stuff.
Good.
Yeah, like I thank you guys for taking some time out of your busy schedules to helping me out.
Our quarantine.
Yes, in your quarantine. I know that you guys have a lot of shows and your wives that are waiting for you as you get out of this door, out of this room that you're in. So hopefully this blesses some people, and I want to do this again in some.
This is great. I'm down for more.
Yeah, this is
Yep. Good idea.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I thank you guys. Be safe out here in those streets, and
Yeah.
we'll do this again.
Take care, guys. Good talk.
Be blessed.
Have a good one.
Bye.